Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Evergrey, Theories of Emptiness, out June 7th on Napalm Records. The album has 11 tracks, 50 minutes in length, and this is the band's 14th full-length studio album. They are a Swedish metal band. The design of this record is straightforward, perhaps the most straightforward element of the entire album. It's a record that offers you the normal ebbs and flows of an Evergrey record. It creates a very engaging journey, a very engaging path from the first all the way to the last song. The album breaks down in the middle with Ghost of My Hero, a ballad that brings in some melancholy into the forefront and really divides the record into two sides. And it comes at a time that it's almost needed. You almost feel like you need something of this nature, of this sound, of this essence to break away from some of the other dynamics that the record offers before this song and after this song. So it's a design that doesn't feel complicated, that doesn't complicate the album. It rather simplifies the experience and makes it as engaging and as entertaining as you would expect from an Evergrey record. Definitely a journey as far as the album goes. Now, as far as the sound is concerned, it's really difficult to explain or to put it into words. What are you going to get when you press play sound-wise? The first thing that I can tell you is that this is an album that offers a sense of progression, and it's progressive from that standpoint. It's not your prototypical sounding Evergrey record, and it doesn't have the progressive elements that we've seen in some of its predecessors. It offers a different side of the band. It allows the band to still have the progressive label around them because the way they created these songs and the way they presented them feels progressive to where they were before. So there's a sense of growth that comes across in how the songs were created and how the sound comes about throughout the entire record. So it's not as progressive from the pure sense of the genre when you compare it to previous albums, but there is a sense of being progressive and how everything is put together and how everything is presented. Now, from a putting together standpoint and presentation standpoint, the production behind this album is phenomenal because it allows you to bring elements to the surface that have always been there with Evergrey, but maybe not having as much of a defining role as they have on this record. And that goes for everything: guitar sound, drum sound, bass sound, keyboard sound, vocals. Everything on this album from a production standpoint feels like it was simplified, but at the same time elevated. If everything on the previous record was turned to 10, they turned everything to 11 on this album, and they allowed some separation of these elements within the overall sound so that you can better understand what they're doing, the impact that they're having, and the uniqueness that they all offer throughout the entire record on every single song. And you can start with the bass sound. The bass sound on this album is phenomenal. This is by far their best album bass-wise when it comes to the sound of the bass. There's no other record that even comes close. The sound of the bass on this album is really part of the DNA of the record. You cannot talk about the sound, you cannot talk about the essence of this album sonically without talking about how impregnating the bass sound is. It's everywhere, but it's everywhere not in a jolting way. The bass is used on this record almost like a third guitar. That's how it comes across, is at times not just playing the melody, not just having a cool bass line, it's almost riffing as if it was a guitar. And the ability to not only record it that way, but put it in the mix in order to come through the songs with that sort of essence and not completely destroy everything around it, not jarring the listener, but rather soothing the listener. The bass sound on this record soothes the listener, and it helps you better appreciate all of the other elements. And what are the other elements? For example, the keyboards. The keyboards that have always been a huge part of Evergrey, I felt like on this record, for as impactful as they are and as dominant as they were subjugated to a different role, a more simplified role of atmosphere and melody, creating a nice blanket that it doesn't matter where the songs are taking you sonically. The fact that the keyboards play a very similar role song in and song out allows you to create a red line between these different tracks and allows the record to still feel very cohesive in its overall big picture, in its overall nature. So a different role for the keyboards, a role that was a little bit easier to digest and a little bit easier to understand from a listener standpoint. Then you have the guitars. The guitars sound really heavy on this album, more frequently than I was expecting. So it's an album that really pushes the guitars into sometimes into a hard rock sound where it feels like you're listening to a rock song, but it's edgy and heavy enough to be more than a rock song. And sometimes they have this extra thickness to them that takes it into a more metal heaviness style sound that works really well with the overall melody that surrounds them. So the guitar sound is phenomenal as well. Great solos, incredible solo sections, a lot of old school elements of having dual solos and allowing the solos to be a little bit brighter than the rest of the song, moving away from the thickness and heaviness that the overall tracks have and allowing them to be a little bit more brighter, infusing a little bit more energy into the songs. So the guitar work on this album is well done because it offers a sense of heaviness, but having that more pure, almost nostalgic rock and roll sound behind them doesn't allow you to sometimes feel that the guitars are even heavy. They feel lighter because of where they're coming from, even though when they reach the destination, they do have a heavy sound to them more often than not throughout the entire album. And then the drum sound really complements the experience. It allows the songs to have the substance to them. It allows the songs to be engulfed in them. And it completes the picture. It's an important piece of the puzzle, perhaps not as dominant as the keys, as the bass, and as the guitars, but nevertheless an important part in order for the other ones to have more of a predominant role. On top of all of this, you have an incredible vocal performance. Now, Cold Dreams is one of the tracks that you have to watch out for because it features Jonas from Catatonia and it features Tom's daughter Selena on vocals, both of them on vocals. So it's a track that vocally is very rich. It has a lot to offer. It's definitely one of the tracks that stands out, and it comes in the second tail end of the album, showcasing how deep this record is as far as quality is concerned, that a song like this can come in the later stages of the record and have the impact that it has. But Tom is incredible, as he always is. What a vocalist. He really navigates this record extremely well, because sometimes, considering how heavy and thick the sound is, he's able to cut through it like a hot butter through knife. A hot knife through butter, I should say. So it's really interesting to see what he does with this voice. It elevates the tracks. It gives the tracks a sense of melancholy. There's definitely a deep sense of melancholy throughout this entire record, more often than not. A contrast from that melancholy that comes through his vocal performance compared to the more robust sound nature that the tracks have. But an incredible performance that definitely elevates the quality of the songs and obviously the quality of the overall record, which at first glance it may seem like a straightforward album. It may seem like an album that doesn't really hide much, that it offers everything that it has. But the more you listen to this album, the more you understand the work that went into creating an album that is complex, it's layered, it's textured, has a lot of moving pieces, but to the untrained ear, it sounds straightforward. It sounds super straightforward, super simple, very rock based, and I think having that rock base to it also adds to that feeling of simplicity. One of my favorite albums by Evergrey. I think this is one of those records that for the more melodic fans of the band that don't necessarily feel sometimes connected to their more progressive side, this album becomes a lot easier to grasp. It's an album made in a way that feels simple to the ear. It's easy to listen to, it's catchy, it's hooky, it has a lot of catchy and hooky melodies. It's not about creating these elaborate internal journeys from song to song. It's rather about you being taken back by the beauty of the sound and how it makes you feel. So it simplifies that process, and that to me is something that allows this album to elevate itself and to be easier to grasp. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, outside of Cold Dreams, which is by far one of my favorite tracks on this record, Misfortune is definitely one of those songs that are up there as far as favorite songs on this record are concerned. It has a heavier, thicker sound. It has a nice underlining rock sound to it with a really great bass. This track has great bass, as all of them do, but on this track I felt like at times the bass come across a little bit thick to add volume, but also a little bit groovy to add to the melody, to add to the movement that the track had. The keys also add to that melody and infuse this nice blanket of atmosphere that kind of lingers across all 11 songs. It just becomes part of the DNA of the fabric of this record. The chorus on this song is really bright, super catchy, super melodic, and it has a really great live energy to it. When you listen to this chorus, you can see this song working really well in a live setting because it has that collaboration that you could get from the audience when you're singing this chorus. So it's almost a metalcore style chorus in terms of the delivery, in terms of the construction, in a song that doesn't have that same DNA. The bass sounds phenomenal. It has a great solo section. It's just a really complete track all around. Next we have Say, another heavy, thick, hard rock pushing into the metal sound in terms of the heaviness. Feels simple, heavy, but also very catchy. It's a very catchy, hooky song, not just when it gets to the chorus, but overall, because it has an amazing melody and it has an amazing overall sound. I love the way the vocals push this track. The chorus has a little bit more of layers surrounding the vocals, which elevates the vocal performance and makes those vocals really stand out, and by association, the chorus stands out. So it's a track that has great bass sound, great guitar sound, great vocals, great chorus, very melodic, very open, and that all of those condiments really help this song be what it is, a simple to listen track, a melodic, simple to listen track that it has hooks all over the place. Last but definitely not least, The Night Within. I love the opening. It has that keyboard, that synthesizer sound that becomes the atmosphere of the song, and I love the fact that it comes in waves. It starts off like that, it disappears in the verses, it comes back in the chorus, disappears in the verses, comes back in the chorus. That melody really lingers almost like a ghost. It just, sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. So I love the fact that it sets itself up and it sets the table right from the get-go, and then it just becomes a layer, but it's part of the weaving layer, the weaving blanket that the keyboards, the synths do throughout the entire record. In this song, perhaps a little bit more noticeable because of how the track opens up. The vocals have great size, great volume, matching the overall guitar sound, the overall essence of the song from that standpoint. It's a track that has a great chorus as well, a little bit more of a heavier guitar sound in the verses, and then a little bit more of an opening melodic sound in the chorus. I love the fact that that keyboard melody, like I said, it comes in, it weaves in and out, but that keyboard, that synthesizer melody has almost a psychedelic aroma to it. This song has a little bit of that psychedelic vibe or that psychedelic atmosphere present in that synth in terms of how it sounds and how it feels and where it transports you to. I love the heavier guitar sound because it counterbalances that more atmospheric synth present. So the two working together make the song feel more robust, and it's not too much of one, it's not too much of the other. This is it, Evergrey, Theories of Emptiness. Once again, out June 7th on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.